Hi, people. Want to talk a bit about the influence of Elon Musk and why I think that is a predominantly negative thing in terms of democracy. Um, in fact, Musk himself had a poll saying, "Do you think it's good that I got into politics?" No, yes, maybe. I put a resounding no. Now let's look at this a bit. Elon Musk is not a normal person. It goes without saying. He's the richest man in the world. He overtook Jeff Bezos a short while back. And even if that alternates, he's absolutely in the top of the top of the top. Not only the richest man in the world today, he's one of the richest men in history. Um, there's some debate over that precisely, but it goes without saying, Elon Musk is a staggeringly rich person. Staggeringly rich. You know, we're talking hundreds of billions. Now, with that in mind, uh, because he's not a normal tycoon, because he's quite eccentric, because of the way he conducts himself, he's also a celebrity in a way that, for example, some of the others are not. Um, our alt family of France, if I'm pronouncing that, for instance, are not celebrities in the same way. They're also extremely wealthy, but they're not celebrities the way Musk is. Um, and the family that own Walmart. There's something about Elon Musk that stands him out from other billionaires. His eccentricity is that aspect of it. So he's also one of the most famous people in the world. He won Time Person of the Year a few years ago. I used to sort of see Elon Musk as okay, he's another super rich guy. He's a bit eccentric. He's known for electric cars, for Tesla, for SpaceX. You know, I was familiar with him because he was famous. But I didn't have very strong views on him. In fact, a few years ago, I felt stronger about Jeff Bezos because of the appalling labor rights of Amazon. Um, I still feel that all billionaires have to have, like, there needs to be certain checks and balances in terms of what influence they have on politics. I think it's fundamentally bad for democracy to have one or two people not calling the shots. That would be an exaggeration, but to have such weight on the democratic process. Um, People might say, "Oh, but he's just stating his opinions." That's a little bit naive, in the sense that by saying that, they're underestimating the power and influence that Elon Musk has. Now, when you have 200 million followers on Twitter, when you own Twitter, not X, you're going to have influence. That's just a no-brainer. When you put out disinformation, as Elon Musk has done on more than a few occasions, that is going to have an influence. You know, this summer when British cities, including mine, were on fire, Elon Musk falsely sent out tweets saying things like, for example, Keir Starmer was sending rioters to the Falkland Islands. That was a lie. Another dangerous lie was that people in Britain are being jailed simply for their opinions. Now, this is based on the controversies around non-crime hate incidents. I absolutely have concerns about those. I absolutely feel that they are far too used. Um, Even Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper, who initially were quite supportive of them, have realised that the optics are bad and they've had to tell the police to basically prioritise what people care about. Um, Dr. Lawrence Newport, who is a man I have a lot of respect for, he's just posted a video about the absolute failure of police to deal with bike theft. Um, in fact, they done an experiment putting a bike outside Scotland Yard. It was stolen. Despite CCTV being there, the police closed the gates. So when this stuff is going on, the police have no reason to be following non-crime hate incidents unless it is real. The only time I would say it's justified is if there is really, really a pattern of inflammatory rhetoric that may fuel community tensions, particularly if you have, for example, communal tensions between, say, the Hindu and Muslim community. A few years ago, there was riots in Leicester as a result of that. Actually, I think it was last year, but at the same time as the coronation. So there may be some ground for monitoring that sort of stuff. But the Alison Pearson case is a good example of how that legislation is abused. And I don't think Essex police really have an excuse for it. They could say it was taken out of context. They could say that that wasn't why they were there. I don't think they've come out well in that because the same force has a very poor rate of dealing with burglaries, for example. So I do think there is a problem with that. But that doesn't condone Elon Musk sending out the falsehood that people in Britain are being jailed solely for their opinions. If that were true, this would be a police state by definition. Um, People are not generally being jailed for their opinions in Britain. It's true that people were jailed for online content during the riots, but that was specifically for incitement, literally for calling on their followers to burn down mosques and hotels with human beings inside, directly, directly inciting violence. There's a world of difference between that and simply telling a politically incorrect joke or having a controversial viewpoint. There is a difference, and people need to understand the difference. Um, I'm not complacent about things like non-crime hate incidents. I'm very, very critical of it, and will continue to be so. But when you have someone like Elon Musk coming in and distorting the situation, it helps nobody. It helps nobody. Now, if we look at Elon Musk, he had a huge influence in the American election, and increasingly he's sticking his nose into British politics. He has this personal feud with Keir Starmer. Starmer, to his credit, is rising above it. Starmer isn't going to the gutter. He is not just firing back insults and stuff to Elon Musk. I think he'd be well within his rights to do so. Because the thing is, Elon Musk's defenders always talk about free speech. Well, if you're saying that he has a right to his opinion, doesn't Keir Starmer have a right to his opinion? Doesn't Keir Starmer have a right to defend himself? Honestly, I am sick and tired of seeing the political right hold up Elon Musk as some sort of prophet of truth, despite his track record of spreading disinformation. And when he does that, it's like, oh, well, anyone can make mistakes. I guarantee you, if a left wing figure done that, like say AOC or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or in Britain Starmer or any member of its cabinet, they would be absolutely pilloried. So why does Elon Musk get a free pass? Um, I think it is interesting though that only a few years ago Musk and Trump weren't exactly seeing eye to eye. Trump was very critical of electric cars, and probably the feeling was mutual. Clearly, Musk isn't in this for financial reasons. He's already the richest man in the world. So there are valid questions over what is his agenda with jumping into the Trump campaign. I do not for a second believe that Elon Musk genuinely cares about the needs of ordinary Americans. I just don't believe that because this is a guy whose whose public image and his public use of money is all about sending millionaires into space, and he comes out with these absurd um, statements like 1 million people are going to be in Mars in a few decades. Just nonsense. He lectures people about how they should have children. He's I'm not going to say stupid. I mean, clearly he's not stupid, but I think he is kind of the definition of a hard foster Kane. He is the personification of an eccentric billionaire. And my question is, are people so foolish that they think this man speaks for them? Musk will jump on the bandwagon. He's very good at, looking at populist issues and jumping on it. And I don't disagree with everything he says. I don't disagree with his points about woke dogma and so on. But the fact that I might agree with him on some issues doesn't mean I should, jump on the Musk adulating bandwagon because I think to have someone with his power and influence in politics is not a good thing. Remember, he is unelected. I mean, Trump's cabinet is a circus. It's some of the worst cabinet picks in American history. And on the subject of Trump, very important to note, Donald Trump did not win a landslide. He won comfortably. He did not win a landslide. And if you actually look at the margins of victory over the years, Trump is actually closer to the bottom. In fact, the single biggest victory of modern times was Calvin Coolidge in 1924, followed, I think, by FDR in the 1932 election, if I've got that right. But Donald Trump is well down the list. So this idea that it's this massive, resounding victory, I think it was a clear victory. I don't think the Democrats can say it was close, but it wasn't. I'd say it was a comfortable victory. I wouldn't say it was a landslide. That's important because people like Elon Musk are distorting this, to suggest that there's been this massive red wave. I do think we have to be honest. There's clearly been a lurch to the right in American politics. But that's not true around the world. Why did the Labour Party get into power in July? I don't think it's enough to just say the Tories were unpopular. The Reform Party, they say that they're the true opposition. Well, whilst Reform had a good night, and they did, the fact remains that in many constituencies they came second. If they're as popular as they claim, why is it that people still put more trust in the Labour candidates than the Reform candidates? Okay, wherever way you gloss that over, Reform had a good night, no question about it. But right now, the Reform Party is divided. Farage has fallen out with one of his deputies. I forget the man's name off the top of my head. Um, so for Kimi Bananook to jump on this petition that's going on, I'll come to that in a second. I just think she must know at the back of her mind where we can't win a general election if it was called tomorrow. I think she probably doesn't even want one. But she's jumping on the bandwagon. It's very cynical. She's jumping on the bandwagon by calling for Starmer to resign. She has been Tory leader for a couple of months, if that. Starmer's been Prime Minister for 5 months. They're both new in the job. So this idea that she thinks representing a party that was decimated at the general election, that she is in a position to call for the Prime Minister to resign, is laughable. It's absurd. And it's not impressive for a leader of the opposition. Um, she has a right to challenge Starmer. In fact, it's her responsibility to challenge Starmer. But I think it's a little bit pathetic for Badenoch to think that she's in a position to call for Starmer to resign. Um, I think if there was a general election tomorrow, people will get a surprise. They would find that Labour will probably get re-elected. Because I do not believe this petition speaks for the majority. I do think there's a lot of dissatisfied people out there. Clearly, Starmer is not loved. The Labour Party is not loved. Clearly, they have upset a lot of people with the winter fuel allowance, with their policy to the farmers. I do think there's been some bad optics on that. Even if the vast majority of farms are not affected, for Labour MPs to say these people don't vote for us anyway is a bit arrogant and actually elitist in a sense. That's also a bit callous when there have been suicides attached to this situation. So, that's Labour hasn't handled it entirely well. But, every government is going to make policies that people don't like. Every government's going to be accused of doing U turns and breaking promises. Recently, I spoke about the interview with the publican who started that petition and Ed Balls and Susanna Reid. Now, there may be a case that Ed Balls shouldn't be fronting that sort of show because he's a former politician. Well, if you're going to make that argument, then neither should Nigel Farage and politicians of the right appear on GB News or Talk TV. You know, the same standard should apply. But leaving that aside, the actual questions they were asking the man were completely polite, completely reasonable. In fact, anyone that bothered watching it would say they even agreed with him at several points. They said maybe there should be a legally binding thing for politicians to keep their word. But Balls asked a very valid question. He said, the Tories failed to stop small boats. You've said that you're a Tory voter, but you didn't call for a petition then. I think that's a valid question, and the man conceded that. Now, I have to take his word for it that he doesn't have a partisan agenda. He did admit that he was a Tory voter. Um, I don't think that there's a big conspiracy there. I think he genuinely started a petition. What I do think has happened, though, is people like Elon Musk have manipulated this. I think it's very plausible that there are fake signatures there. Like I say, the UK Parliament website, when you leave a signature, you have to click on your email, but there's nothing stopping people from having several email accounts. Um, and at the moment, I don't know what the latest count is, 5 million signatures, less, I don't know what it is, but Labour got 9.7 million votes. Now, if this petition surpasses that, they may have a democratic mandate to say we're the majority. But until that happens, they are a vocal minority. That's the truth. And what I find a little bit galling about this is many of the people signing that, not everyone, but many of the people signing that petition are the very same people who were, very quick to label others as remoaners because they didn't like Brexit. Even if they weren't calling for another referendum, if they merely questioned Brexit, they were branded as remoaners. And yet the same people think that they have a democratic mandate because they don't like the government. It's going to take Labour time to deal with the mess the Tories created. It's going to take Labour time to enact their policies. I think it's unfair to judge any government after 5 months. And this is not an endorsement of Labour. I don't like everything they've done. I don't trust them on crime. I don't trust them on other areas. But I'm not going to sign that petition because it is glaringly partisan. When Nigel Farage, long-term Tory supporter Sir Michael Caine, and Elon Musk are vocally supporting it, that says something. It's a deeply partisan thing. In fact, it would carry more weight if it wasn't calling for a general election against Labour, if it was saying, let's make politicians legally accountable to promises they make. That way it would be non-partisan. But because it's aimed at Starmer and Labour, I say there's a blatantly obvious partisan agenda with that. Um, and I'm not saying the man who started has, honestly, he didn't come across as the brightest person in the world. He came across as a pretty ordinary bloke. I don't think he went in with an agenda particularly, but I don't think that, I don't think he's the sort of person that really thinks in depth about politics all the time, and that's fine. He doesn't have to. If you are the pioneer of a petition that is now one of the most signed petitions in British history, then it's fair that questions are asked of you. Um, but back to Elon Musk. GB News, they're interviewing his father, Elon Musk, as if as if he has great weight. Of course, he's going to defend his son. But I am sick and tired of the British right holding up the Musks, Elon and his father Errol, as if their opinion should carry so much weight. Um, I remember, I'm not going to name check because I'll get it wrong, but one of the presenters, it was either on GB News or Talk TV, she said that Keir Starmer would be making a big mistake to go up against Elon Musk, as if he's some sort of godfather who should be feared. Don't cross the dawn. It's just that's I think how the right see these people. Elon Musk has enormous power, and I think the political right admire that power. I honestly think in recent years the political right have thrown personal integrity out of the window. They look up to Elon Musk and Donald Trump because they're powerful. They're rich and powerful, and it's power for power's sake. And because they happen to have some positions that they agree with, all the better. Let's just forget their character. Let's forget that both men have a long track record of spreading lies, a long, long track record of doing so. Um, I just think it's very sad that traditional conservatives have sold their soul, this narcissistic, shallow, vacuous um, personality cult. Not every conservative, there's still conservatives out there who have integrity, who are not jumping on the bandwagon. But unfortunately, many have on both sides of the Atlantic. I find it very sad. Um, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't think Keir Starmer should take any lectures from an unelected person who is not even a British citizen. I don't know about the status of Elon Musk. I don't know if he has British citizenship. I assume he lives in Britain. Elon Musk certainly doesn't. He's a South African. He may or may not have American citizenship. Um, he can have his opinions. I have opinions on other countries. I don't say that Elon Musk can't have opinions on the UK, but when he tells lies about the UK, he should be held to account. And maybe Starmer should be a little bit more forceful in pushing back against Musk's lies. For example, that people are jailed in Britain for having an opinion. That is massive hyperbole. It's a distortion. People were jailed in the summer for inciting violence. That's very, very different being jailed for having an opinion. And it's a dangerous distortion. It doesn't help anyone. That doesn't mean I'm complacent. It doesn't mean that I don't think there are problems that we need to address. But I just think saying that this country is a police state is unhelpful hyperbole. It doesn't. All that does is create even deeper mistrust, and people might say, they might get into this thing of, well, if you feel that strongly about Elon Musk, don't use X. Oh, no, no one should use X. But what happens if everyone who is critical of Elon Musk leaves X? Then it just becomes a total echo chamber. By staying on X, at least there is some dissenting voices. At least Elon Musk doesn't totally get to call the shots because he knows that if he just blocks everyone who has a different point of view, he will be charged with hypocrisy since he's been such a zealot for free speech. So he knows he can't do that. So I am on X and I am vocally criticizing Musk. I replied to his post asking if it was good that he got into politics. I put a big block capital no, and I said my reasons why. Um, I don't care what Elon Musk thinks, except, I mean, I care in the sense that I think his influence is a bad influence. But in terms of putting any weight on his opinions, in terms of respecting his opinions, I have no respect for Elon Musk. I recognize that he's been hugely successful, but this idea that successful people should be respected solely for that reason, no. You know, I think that the vast, vast, vast fortune that Musk has, frankly, could be better spent on some of the problems on Earth rather than sending millionaires into space. Um, I wouldn't go into conspiracy theories about him affecting the results of the American election, but I also think it would be wrong to say that he had no influence. Um, and what does he get from Trump? You know, obviously not money. He doesn't need money, but um, vested interests in terms of the media landscape, perhaps. There's all sorts of things that could be looked at. But I absolutely say I'm a British citizen. Elon Musk does not speak for me. And I'm sick and tired of the British right holding this guy up. I mean, the hypocrisy of these people. If you had a left wing American celebrity criticize Brexit, you could be damn sure they would be out with their pitchforks. But when it's a multi billionaire who's jumped on the right wing bandwagon of Trump, oh, well, his view counts. It's just so hypocritical. Um, Frankly, to hell with Elon Musk and his father. I am sick and tired of this idea that they should just be groveled to and respected because they're so rich and powerful. That is unhealthy. Let's have some self respect and stop adulating Elon Musk.